and welcome back to my channel, Good Effort Meg. Today we're getting back to the Crochet Cafe and we're going to be crocheting another original 151 Pokemon, and today we are doing Snorlax. So one of my viewers specifically requested that I crochet Snorlax, so I'm finally getting around to doing it. And just like my other crochet videos, like always, I will leave a link to the pattern down below in the description. And without further ado, let's get crafting. So as always, we're going to start with our list of materials. So here are the color yarns we're going to need. A cream, a white, a black, and these will be used for the main part of the body, his feet, and some of the detailing that we're going to do. And then for the bulk of Snorlax, we're going to use this teal. You need a pair of scissors, a 3.5 millimeter crochet hook, and a tapestry needle. And of course, some stitch markers. So we're going to start with making the main body of Snorlax. So to do that, we're going to start with a magic ring. So if you haven't done this before, just make an X on the bottom of your fingers, go under and then over, and pull that yarn through, twist, and then what we're going to do is remove it from our fingers, yarn over, and pull through that loop on our hook. This does not count as a stitch for the magic ring. This is kind of how you lock it in. So from here, we're going to add our single crochets into the magic ring, and these are the stitches that count for the magic ring. And when we have all 6 of those stitches, just pull the tail of your yarn as tight as you can to close up that hole. If there's still a little bit of a hole, you can always go back and sew across to close that up. So for the next round, we are going to start with increases. And before you start, always remember to put your stitch marker, because we are working in the round. So that means it will be very easy to lose track of where you are if you don't use stitch markers. And because this pattern is written in UK terms, just know that anywhere it says DC in the pattern, which in US terms would mean double crochet, we actually want to do a single crochet. So for any increases that you see in the pattern, you're just going to put 2 single crochets in a single stitch. So keep working that around, and this is what it should look like when you're fairly far along. So you can see we're creating kind of an oval shape. So just keep working those increase rounds, keeping track of what increments you're on. And then when you get done with your increasing rounds, all you're going to do at this point is you're just going to add multiple rows of single crochets all the way around. Make sure you keep a tally to keep track of what row you're on so you don't lose count. Once you're finished with those single crochet rounds, then you're going to start working those decreasing rounds. So with this pattern, when it says DC 3, and then in parentheses, it'll say something like, oh, I don't know, DC 10, comma, decrease, end parentheses times 3. What that means is you're going to single crochet 3 stitches, and then you're going to single crochet 10 stitches, and then do your decrease. And you can see here how I like to do my decreases. I like to split the stitch. I just think that it prevents a larger hole from appearing. So this is just the way that I prefer to do it. But then you're just going to do the single crochet 10 more times, and then do another decrease, and you'll do that 3 times, and then you will do that whole unit twice around. So the 3, the 10, the decrease. You'll do that twice. So I'll go ahead and show y'all how I do my decrease one more time. So I split the stitch, so I'm working in that front loop only. I put my hook in, yarn over, put my hook in the next stitch, yarn over, and then yarn over and pull through all 3 stitches. And now that y'all are experts in basically all of the stitches that you need to do this pattern, just keep reading along, keeping track of where you are. Don't forget your stitch marker. And we are working the head and body as a single unit. So if you're wondering why after these decreasing rounds you start increasing again, that's why, because you're creating the neck. And you'll keep working all the way through the bottom of the body. And I personally really like this way of crocheting. It just is removing an entire sewing step. So anytime I don't have to hand sew, I am a happy girl. So here you can see the neck really starting to come into shape. And of course, Pennie wanted to make her cameo. Again, the life of a crocheter with a cat. So she is always looking for cuddles. So when you get to about this point, this is where I prefer to start stuffing. You can stuff earlier. I prefer to wait until essentially the last possible moment so my hook doesn't get caught in the stuffing while I'm working. To me, that's very annoying, but just don't forget to stuff your head before you get too far along so you can still get your hand in there. So keep doing what you're doing. You're making great progress. Again, we're working on kind of like an oval, so this isn't going to be a perfect circle. So just make sure you're keeping track of those stitches and keep following that pattern along. So I'll let you guys get to it and I'll see you towards the end. So now that we're getting closer to closing up Snorlax, just be thinking about getting to a point where you want to start stuffing his body. So this is about the point that I did it. Make sure you add plenty. I always typically add a little bit more at the very end. And now we can close up the bottom. So if you have a bigger hole at the bottom, you can always stitch that closed if you're not happy with it. But mine I was pretty satisfied with. So here is what the head and body looks like. I already can see his shape coming together, and I don't know, honestly, this kind of reminded me of like, if any of y'all played the board game Sorry, kind of reminds me of one of those little pawn pieces. But there you go. So now we are going to start on the arms. So I typically work patterns out of order from the way that they're listed, like on a pattern sheet. I just like to get all of the same color items done before I switch to a different color yarn. That's just a personal preference, but we're just going to start with the magic ring. And I will tell you, just be mindful of the pattern here. So there are some notes in here that'll say like, increase 3, and all that means is you're just going to work 3 stitches for an increase rather than just the 2 that you would normally do. So that just was something that I messed up a couple times and I had to go back and frog it and then rework that round. And another tip that I have with working on the arms is wherever it says working a slip stitch, make sure you keep your tension kind of loose. I typically have a pretty tight tension, that's just habit. And when I was trying to work the next round, it was really hard to get my hook into the slip stitch. So just go easy and yeah, just keep a looser tension. Now about halfway through the arm, you're gonna start working these stitches in rows rather than rounds. And all that means is that once you get to the end of that row, you're going to turn your piece and essentially work backwards in those stitches. And you're just gonna kind of go back and forth, and this will kind of create like the shoulder part of the arm. So you'll kind of have an elongated hole where you will stitch it onto Snorlax. So again, just keep track of those stitches and you'll do fine. So here you can see me turning my piece, and I'm always keeping my leading yarn behind my piece. So that's kind of my tip to make sure you turn it in the right direction. And then we're just gonna start working our next row. There you can see. So now we're done with our arm. So just make 2 of these bad boys, and then make sure you're leaving a long tail so that way you don't have to tie on yarn in order to stitch it onto the body. I always leave more than what I need, but I'd rather have more than what I need and not enough. But here you can see the like rows that we were working, and it created kind of like a little shoulder, and that's how it'll fit on the body. You got this. And now we are on to the ears. So just like the arms, we're just going to start with a magic circle. And since we're all experts in these stitches now, just read the pattern and follow along, and don't forget to leave a long tail for sewing these on at the end. Now we're going to switch to the cream colored yarn, and this time we're not starting off with a magic circle. We're going to start off with a chain. So just make your cast on knot, and then we're going to chain our stitches. So you just yarn over and pull through, and you do that for the allotted number of stitches, and just make your little chain. And as you can see, I've been doing some painting off camera, so no worries if you see the black paint on my hands. Now, this was definitely one of the pieces that I wasn't paying close enough attention to the pattern and the way it was written, but learn from my mistakes. So notice that on some of the rows, you need to be increasing by 3 rather than the standard 2. And then you will quickly switch on row 5 to just your standard increase, which is just the 2 single crochets into a single stitch. So I messed this up like 2 or 3 times and had to frog it each time. So learn from my mistakes and just pay attention, and you're just turning between each round. Again, making sure that your leading yarn is behind your piece. So that's a good way to make sure that you don't get all tangled up and twisted. So, but yeah, so we're just gonna work on this all the way up. And yeah, and then we'll have the markings for the belly and the face. So when you get to the head portion, we're going to be working with the leading yarn still attached for one of the eyepieces. And then we will actually cut it off and finish that off. And we're going to attach our yarn for the second eyepiece, just like this. And I like to twist my yarn before I do my slip stitch. I think it just makes it to where it's a little bit more secure. I don't really know if this is like the proper way to do this, but I've just had success with doing it this way. And I just kind of hold the tail behind, and then I will yarn over and pull through with my lead yarn. And that doesn't count as a stitch, attaching my yarn like that. And then we're just gonna work the second eye. Now that we have the shape of the markings complete, I am just going to go ahead and take all of these loose yarn pieces, and I'm just going to kind of put them into the back of the piece. So I know the side that is not going to be showing, and just kind of tucking these away. I'm not worried too much about them coming loose or anything like that, because again, they're going to be behind the piece. So, but just to tidy it up just a little bit, I think it makes it look a little bit more polished. And then we're going to attach our yarn again in the bottom corner, just like we did before. And we're just going to single crochet all around the edges. So this just makes the edges look a little bit more finished, and yeah, just space them evenly and go all the way around. And then just like before, we'll tuck that yarn in behind. This is what it'll look like. It's so cute. So now we're gonna add the eyes, teeth, and the mouth. I guess we'll add the eyes, mouth, and teeth in that order, but yeah, so I just used some black yarn, and I'm not the best at embroidery, so I just kind of looked at a photo while I was doing this and kind of guesstimated where to put my eyes. And yeah, so I did this a couple times over until I was happy with where everything, you know, was located on the face. But yeah, I don't really have like a strategy to share with you guys. Just try again until you're happy with it, I guess. Now for the teeth, it'll be kind of hard to see, so the white is blending in quite well with the cream colored yarn, so I apologize in advance for that. But yeah, again, just like the eyes and the mouth, I just kind of tried again until I got to a shape that I was happy with. But I basically just made kind of a triangle and then kind of did what's called a satin stitch over the, you know, 2 stitches that I made here, so that way it would kind of be filled in a little bit more and a little bit more pronounced. I think it might look better if you did it with embroidery thread, but again, just using what I had on hand. I'm happy with the overall end of this. Now for the last few pieces. So we are going to work on the feet. So again, we're starting with our magic ring, and since we're all experts in the magic ring and increasing stitches, just follow the pattern as written. And really the tricky bit we'll get to is the puff stitch, which will be his little toenails, claws, toenails? Yeah, his little toesies. So when you get to the point where you're doing the toes, you're going to bring in your white colored yarn. And again, I apologize, it's a little difficult to see because it blends in. But essentially you're just yarning over and inserting your hook in twice, 3 times until you get to a size that you're happy with. And then on the final bit, I think I had 6 stitches here on my hook. So on the final yarn over, you just pull through all of those stitches, and sometimes your hook kind of gets caught on pieces of the yarn. So again, just be patient, work it through. You might have to undo it and redo it again, but this is essentially how you make a puff stitch. And I wasn't super convinced about the way that these came out at first, so make sure you push the puff stitch towards what will be the front of the foot. So once I did that, then I was like, oh, okay, that makes a lot more sense. So you kind of have to finagle it towards the front. But yeah, once you do that, it looks a lot better. And yeah. So here's what your finished foot will look like. And it's kind of cute. And we will stuff these when we sew them on. So there you go. You have just finished crocheting all the little bits and pieces for your Snorlax. So the next step is going to be stitching these all on together. So just be patient with yourself, take your time. I don't really have any strategies with this because I don't think I'm the best at stitching, but once you do that, he's all done. And now it's time for the big reveal. Ba, 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 ba. Doesn't he look so cute? He's so fluffy. I love his little ears and his little toes. So Snorlax was relatively easy to put together. I was very pleased with the simplicity of the pattern. So I definitely think it's something that a beginner who's learning to crochet, this is probably a good project to start on. There's no crazy curves, there's no crazy edges or anything like that, and the sewing was relatively straightforward. But I am very happy with the way that this turned out. I know the color is a little bit off, but again, I just wanted to use what I had on hand and, you know, just save money where I can. So, but I'm very happy with the way that he turned out, and he's definitely going to be on my desk with Squirtle and Bulbasaur so far. So very, very happy with this. I tried to do a little bit more of a tutorial style video, and because a lot of the stitches and rows are repeating but just in different increments, I tried to be specific but also be respectful of the artist pattern. So let me know down in the comments if this was helpful. It's the first time I've done this kind of video that is more instructional but not a full tutorial, if that makes sense. So I know some of my viewers have requested more of a tutorial style video, so I'm trying to find a happy medium of being respectful of an artist product as well as providing you guys content that you can use and is helpful and is enjoyable for you. So let me know if this is a step in the right direction, or if you would prefer me to go back to more of the casual, laid-back time lapse of watching me crochet while you watch the cats run around in the background. But otherwise, I hope you guys decide to stick around for some more content coming up. And otherwise, I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your day or evening, wherever you are. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye!